He's a terrorist. John McCain was not a terrorist. And he is applying the lessons of his own captivity, and he cites all these generals, General Powell and others, that this might lead to the mistreatment of U.S. soldiers. Does anyone think Al-Qaeda respects these conventions? And incidentally, I'm very concerned about U.S. soldiers in the field. I was with the parents of a young man serving in Iraq last night. They're for Bush, not for McCain. Do we think if we polled the soldiers in Iraq, they would be with McCain on this, not with Bush? I rather doubt it. This is an issue of how tough we can be on the very few high-value terrorists whom we choose to have the CIA interrogate. It has nothing to do with the military treatment of other military prisoners. And on this issue, I think the country is with Bush. I think the enlisted men in the military are with Bush, and Bush is going to win.
I have to say, I think this is a play that we've seen before. You talk about the Detainee Treatment Act, McCain's Treatment Act. That was, the White House threatened to veto that. Vice President Cheney tried to get a CIA exemption and failed. But at the end of the day, it passed. The president signed it. And look, these legal realities, I think, are open to debate, in part because there's so much that remains classified. But the political reality is clear. I mean, this president is up against a November election. If things are difficult now, imagine what they could be after November. He's up against some very prominent senators. And for all of the talk about how he was kind of had his stand pat on Friday and how he seemed angry and prickly, if you listen between the lines, not even between the lines, he was saying, I want to work with Congress. And I think at the end of the day, and McCain suggested this today, that there will be a compromise and it will happen before the election.
Which will shut off no end of speculation and discussion about whether the compromise language was a victory for McCain or a victory for President Bush. I might add this about McCain, that he is seeking the Republican nomination for President of the United States. It's pretty clear. He's supposedly the front runner. Another week of this, he won't be the front runner. In fact, I would say if this ends in some kind of a confrontation in which he, quote, wins, I think his chances of becoming the nominee of the Republican Party are basically out the window.
I was going to ask about that, Mara, because McCain has been one of the staunchest supporters of the president when it comes to the war on terror, and especially the war in Iraq, when a lot of other Republicans haven't been so outspoken about it. And yet it would seem to me this would hurt him with a lot of conservatives for the 2008 nomination.
This might hurt him. Whether it would be the thing that would actually deny him the nomination, I don't know if I'm willing to go as far as Britt. I mean, there's a lot of time between now and the 2008 nominating battles. A lot of other things are going to go on. This is one issue. He has been a very staunch supporter of the president on almost everything involving the war on terror and certainly on Iraq. So I think this might cause him some trouble, but I certainly don't think he's doing this with the nomination in mind.
So, Bill, you're pretty close to John McCain. One, why do you think he's doing this? Obviously, he believes it, but why do you think he seems to have his feet so set in stone on this? And two, politically, how big a mistake for him?
He's doing it because he believes it. He says it's a matter of conscience for him. It's a huge political mistake, and it's going to mistake's not the right word. He's doing what he thinks is right. It's not what most Republican voters are going to think is right. Bush is going to win, incidentally. I don't buy the argument that he's going to. The House of Representatives is going to pass Bush's language this week. It's going to put an awful lot of pressure on senators to come to a compromise. Well, I'm not sure that they can't even win on the Senate floor over McCain, incidentally. It's a tough vote for Democrats. The Democrats are living in a world where they think having John McCain on their side gives them a huge amount of political cover. I don't buy it. If you're in a real competitive Senate race, the Republican says, I'm with Bush, and I'm with the CIA director, and I'm with the intelligence officers in the field who have to buy litigation insurance now because of the legal uncertainty, and I think we need to be tough on people like Abu Zubaydah. And what's the Democratic opponent going to say? Well, gee, I'm with Senator McCain. Well, fine, but what's your substantive position? Your substantive position is you can't be tough with the al-Qaeda terrorists. That is a winning fight for Bush, and McCain being on the opposite side of it is hurting him badly.
Let me bring in one other player before we take a break here, and that is former Secretary of State Powell, who sent a letter this week, Nina, in which he said that the world is beginning to doubt the moral basis for our war on terror. I have to say, maybe just me, but what I got out of that letter is that Secretary Powell has been waiting for some time to distance himself from this president on some of these issues, and that really got under the president's skin.
I think that's right. I think Colin Powell is he's been a team player while he was in the administration. He's been pretty quiet since he's been out, as we know, particularly with a lot of accounts that are coming out now about the lead up to the war in Iraq, that he wasn't always on the same page. And I do think he's taking this opportunity to step out, and I bet we'll see more of it.
Britt, what do you make of the Powell-Bush dynamics on this?
I'm struck by the idea that he has been a team player. Perhaps in some personal way he was. But let's not forget the fact that he presided over the State Department that was in all but open rebellion against the president and his policies. Let's not forget the fact that Colin Powell, like Richard Armitage, knew who the source of the Valerie Plame so-called leak was and knew it all along. No one told the president who the source of the leak was, even when he was trying to find out. Colin Powell kept silent and let Karl Rove and others in the White House close to the president twist in the wind. Team player? Maybe.
All right, we need to take a quick break here, but we'll continue with this discussion about the war on terror and the politics of it right after this.